Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 1, Knowledge Equals Power. Chapter 1 Knowledge Equals Power. The country of fire, the hidden village of Konoha, the sun rises as usual. In a seemingly unremarkable house, a father and son are sitting at the table where breakfast is set, staring wide-eyed. Midogate Satoru's face was the same as usual, and he saw the face of the old man on the opposite side again. It quickly changed from normal to red and then to blue. The soft dark brown short hair is curled up at will, with a round face, a pair of big piercing eyes, and wearing a dark blue blouse. This kid looks cute and cute. He quickly finished his breakfast and glanced at the clock on the wall. Well, it's almost time for Dad to go to work. Got up skillfully, ran back to his room on the second floor, closed the door, and finished in one go. Yawned, Satoru made an understated gesture, uttered a few strange syllables, and dazzling purple sparks flickered on his fingertips. A large book with a peculiar cover that shone with a magnificent lavender light slowly emerged in the air in front of him. Nodded with satisfaction, Satoru opened the big book on the table, covered his ears with his hands, and began to read it intently. 3, 2, 1. From downstairs on time, the angry roar of the old man came. Enlightenment. You stinky boy. How does your brain turn? Your question is just nonsense. Is ninjutsu what you are told to do? Don't mess around. Downstairs, in front of the breakfast table, the senior advisor of Konoha Hidden Village. The status, strength, and wisdom are said to be similar to the 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hyjin Midogate Yen, took off his glasses angrily, took a sigh, and pulled the tablecloth and wiped it fiercely. Was too excited just now, his fingers on the glasses trembled so much that they poked the glasses. As the highest-ranking advisor in the history of the Mido family, it is not the first time that he has been so angry with his son recently. But then he looked at the glasses that were getting more and more polished, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. He was just covering up his embarrassment. Although as Konoha's senior advisor, the direct disciple of the second Hokage, and the close comrade-in-arms of the third Hokage, Yen possesses great strength and wisdom recognized by the upper ninjas, but he still can't change a little. He's a traditional ninja, and the responsibilities of a high-level advisor make it imperative for him to stay safe. Even in the education of his son. But good wisdom taught him that it is a good thing that young people like to ask questions. With such a rich ninjutsu system, wasn't it created by countless whimsical ninja ancestors? But, his son's thinking is too divergent, right? He was only a few years old when he started thinking of such a dangerous idea. How to use the intense pain of the fire to stimulate the body, so as to stimulate the potential to obtain the speed beyond the limit. Yen twitched the corners of his mouth and put on the glasses that were getting blurry, grabbed the bread in front of him and took a bite. This is just nonsense. Even I don't dare to put the fire on myself directly, the earth is almost. I thought he would be able to stop after the last feasibility of casting transformation spells on the enemy and the more ridiculous thoughts last time. Midogate Satoru in the upstairs room put down his hand covering his ears. Cut, pedantic old man. This is a serious academic proposition. Ninjutsu is essentially no different from magic, and by the time of the Fourth War, not all of those gentlemen were archmage. Is Naruto mage? The fan swearing in vain? Satoru let out a long sigh of relief. He was still under a lot of psychological pressure when he traveled to the upper level of Konoha. As a good boy who was born in a peaceful era, he never fought since he was a child, and his biggest hobby is to stay at home and watch anime and play games. The only time in my last life was when my boss Shabi wanted him to take the blame and fired him. With the strength and status of the father Midogate Yen, he was determined to have excellent ninja talent early on as a son, and there should be no problem with a future jonin. But the problem is, this world is too cruel. Under 10 years old to go to the battlefield or something. The original Hokage anime, Satoru has also watched some, but only before Shippuden. The original animation's large amount of memories and plot seriously affected his motivation for chasing more updates, so he turned to see pirates. Then, until the end of Hokage, he didn't think to make up for it. However, the overwhelming information on comprehensive novels, certain Billy, certain Who, certain Ba, etc., makes Midogate Satoru somewhat aware of the main plot, but the details are unclear. Key words: male Shoutian group, a bag of rice carrying a few floors, dance king Banyi, younger brother weasel god, Bayman Kai Huang, scientist snake uncle, Wang Tuanzang, Sundra 9 lama, I win Abito, for generation 666, Hataki 55, mouth escape savior, ex-love black Jew, bloodline Saigao, alien big barrel. There are also various eyeballs that play with flowers. This Tema is a world where socialist and pollution-free intellectuals should stay. As a child, Satoru was troubled by this for 5 years. Until, fortunately, Mito Gate Satoru turned over the big book in front of the page again, and the mysterious symbols on it were flashing with indefinite light. The Book of Mediv, the strongest magic book in Azeroth, but this signature. Signed to the new Guardian Khadgar, my no longer young trust, Mediva's afterimage. So, this is a remake. When he was sleeping on his 5th birthday, he accidentally came to the spiritual space. After seeing this strange magic book, he understood. As a weak and pollution-free intellectual, the cost of surviving in this dangerous world has arrived. Azeroth is the world he is most familiar with. A certain sky blue profession known as his pro-sun is also the favorite profession for decent players who abide by order. You don't need to spend money to buy food and drink, it's convenient to make money with a trumpet, the attack power is not low, and the NPC background is hard enough to be full like this. Even those who are fond of other professions, how many have never played mage? But a ninja, like a mage, is a profession with high blood and thin blood. Therefore, the number one priority of the ninja world to settle down is to save your life. With the help of the Book of Mediv these days, Mito Gate Satoru has successfully obtained the arcane power of one of the 6 forces of Azeroth, the foundation of the mage. The power of arcane magic, the power used by the creation titans of the Order side, has various incredible magical effects. From the fireball technique of mages to the power of creation of titans, they are all manifestations of arcane power. That's right, magic of fire, frost, lightning, earth, and even life can use arcane power to sculpt. To put it simply, according to the interpretation of the Book of Mediv, the magician's casting is to use the arcane power under their control to rub the corresponding elements into the desired shape. Archmage Khadgar liked to rub lightning bolts when he was young. As long as they want, they can even forcibly rub the holy light spell. The premise is that there is a holy light battery. For mages, the power of arcane is the fundamental, and the rest are trails. And magic does not have the so-called attributes of ninjutsu. Satoru held his chin and radiated his thoughts. The Book of Mediv recorded the most arcane magic, the most orthodox magic book. As a remake, this magic book with obvious commemorative significance still abides by the apprentice protection mechanism of, the stronger the strength, the more content you see. Even for fun, many anecdotes and complaints were added. However, in the ninja world, arcane magic that is too conspicuous cannot be used in the first place. Arcane blasts, arcane missiles, arcane orbs, etc., are too dazzling, and those that are not very conspicuous are fine. In the same way, in the Mito family, which has no special bloodline limit, the appearance of the ice type will also bring huge trouble. Then, aside from regular ninjutsu, the only option that can be used as an initial means is fire magic. So the question goes back to the beginning. One of the powerful life-saving skills of fire magic. Hot and fast. Celebrating the 100th anniversary of the founding of the party new book for collection. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 2, World Tree and Tree. Chapter 2 World Tree and God Tree. Mito Gate Satoru took a notebook and wrote and drew on it. The principle of is right, but how to cast spells depends on him. The book only introduces the principles of spellcasting, and there are no ready-made spells. Probably because Archmage Khadgar no longer needs a spell to cast this kind of spell. First, the control of arcane power. The Book of Mediv is not only a spell book that records magical knowledge, but also a powerful instrument. God can successfully obtain the power of arcane magic without its help. In this world where arcane power does not manifest, it is basically impossible for Satoru to comprehend arcane power on his own. Even if he lives next to the Well of Eternity, it took tens of thousands of years for the elves to appear the real arcane magic. Mage. The original arcane power is difficult to control, especially in the initial era of no systematic magical inheritance. It is recorded in the book that after the explosion of the Well of Eternity, the elves rely on the Tree of the World to use arcane power more easily. The principle of the World Tree is to use the vast life force to channel the forces of nature to regulate the rampant arcane powers of the Well of Eternity and enable the caster to use them safely. For example, the sparks and moonfires of the Gugus. And the magic net that later spread all over the world is also the foundation for magic apprentices to quickly master the power of arcane magic. Now Satoru can already see the content of this part. This is part of the history of magic. There is no magic net and no world tree here, this book will replace it. Satoru's hand holding the pen suddenly stopped, a trace of cold sweat seeping from his forehead. No. World tree. But, there is a divine tree. God tree, 10 tails, the ancestor of chakra. Chakra is a special energy formed by the mixture of physical energy and spiritual energy in the human body, but human energy and spiritual energy have existed since ancient times. Why did chakra appear after the tree of gods appeared? The divine tree absorbs the life force of the planet and forms the chakra fruit, which the Book of Mediv clearly records that the power of arcane magic is the power of the Titan, that is, the power of the star soul, the embodiment of the power of the world soul. The Well of Eternity is the manifestation of the arcane power of the Azeroth star soul, the source of magic and natural energy. Here, the ninja world can also master the power of arcane magic. In other words, does this planet have a star soul? Chakra is the arcane power processed by the divine tree, a brand new energy that is different from natural energy. Even the environment of thousands of years has changed, and the creatures in the ninja world have been affected and can master chakra. Just as after the emergence of the Well of Eternity, Azeroth has produced all kinds of strange magical animals, plants and minerals for tens of thousands of years. If that's true, couldn't care about the hot speed, Mito Gate Satoru immediately tried to use the power of arcane to launch ninjutsu. If his guess is true, the power of arcane should be able to replace the role of chakra, or at least it should be able to transform into each other. Weisei Ninjutsu, Clone Technique. Boom! When formed the seal, Satoru felt that something was wrong, and he didn't have time to think about it. One of the most basic E-rank ninjutsu, the clone technique, had already been completed. This is. Mito Gate Satoru stared at the strange thing separated out with a black line. Is not a phantom clone of the E-level clone technique, but has some entities, which means that the effect of the technique is stronger, but this ghost form. You have already mastered the avatar technique already. Arcane power can activate ninjutsu, but it is much more difficult to control. And the power of arcane magic can also be converted into chakra and then use ninjutsu, and it is more special than the normal chakra. Wu's eyes flashed a faint purple halo, which was the phenomenon of the unstable mental state leading to the leakage of arcane power. Sure enough, my conjecture is justified. The more in-depth principles may be understood only by my knowledge of arcane magic. But now, I'm more sure of surviving safely in this world. Mito Gate Satoru panic, his father Mito Gate Yen is not low in the whole Konoha, and his popularity is not low. Even in the ninja world, he is not a small transparent. But who has heard that Mitoman has a son? Xiaochun, who is also a consultant, has lost his teeth and has not changed his surname. It can be seen that he is not married, or married to a commoner, and his descendants do not know who it is. Mr. Guo Wang is also a wonderful existence, let's not forget it for the time being. Among his friends, Uchiha Kyu, who died at an early age, has descendants like Shisui, the 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hizen and the Chiou Dao Feng Feng of the Chiou Dao family, not to mention the Mito Gate flame. Satoru came to a conclusion in horror. If he originally had a son, he would either be a scumbag or die. And scum, obviously it doesn't match the level of ninja talent I have now. Now, there is finally hope. Satoru cleared his mind, let out a long breath, and the arcane brilliance in his eyes dissipated. The extent to which a wizard controls arcane power is inseparable from knowledge and spirit. A wealth of knowledge and a strong spirit can effectively harness the power of arcane magic and achieve your goals. In this way, the existence of chakra makes spellcasting in this world easier than one level, and even children of a few years old can perform ninjutsu. The existence of the God Tree is almost equivalent to the enhanced version of the World Tree. It not only absorbs the power of the Star Soul Arcane, but also uses the power of life to reconcile it. It seems that the various changes in the properties of chakra are also related to this process. The richness of arcane knowledge can make spiritual power more compatible with arcane magic, and it can be controlled with less effort, and the stronger the spiritual power, the more arcane power you can control. Level, basically do not worry about mana. Mito Gate Satoru went back to the table, took out the notebook again, and began to summarize the spellcasting principle of blazing fast. This kind of research is also one of the effective means of training arcane affinity. Go! Are you there? Familiar children shouted from downstairs outside the window. Satoru put the pen down, lay down on the table, and let his hair fall below the window edge. Hey! Woo, don't hide. When did you look for you when you were young, didn't you squat at home? Sigh. There was a noise outside the window. Satoru grinned helplessly, raised his head, and saw a little fat man hanging outside the window. Squinted his eyes and circled his face, looking very happy. Chiu Dao Dingsua of the Chiu Dao family, a friend of his father Mito Gate Yen, and the son of Chiu Dao Chifeng, was born 10 days earlier than Wu. It sounds like you've grown up. Satoru got up and opened the window. Dingsua jumped in, and the book of Mediv was placed on the table. Dingsua couldn't see it at all, just saw Enlightenment's notebook. What novelty things are you researching? Dingsua skillfully took out a bag of potato chips, opened it, and handed it to Wu. He couldn't help but complain. I said, Wu, you are obviously more than 10 days younger than me. Why do I always think that you are much older than me? My dad always tells me to learn more from you. But I'm really not used to reading books. It's because you belong to the Chiu Dao family. Wu took Dingsua's potato chips into the mouth, muttered in a low voice, and immediately became a little excited. Dingsua, you came just right. I just had some new ideas. Let's go to the river and try it out. What? Dingsa bit his fingers and fought a cold war, thinking about the consequences of what Satoru said last time. You wouldn't have researched another technique to turn me into a sheep or something. No, it's not. This time it's an art I apply to myself. I just want your help to prevent an accident. Real? Really, let's go. I finally sacrificed time at home to go out. Half an hour later, Dingsua watched the fire burn his buttocks, shouted and disappeared in front of him instantly. Satoru, who fell into the river, opened his mouth wide, and the potato chips fell from his hands. Is this a teleportation technique? End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 3, What to do after becoming a sheep. Chapter 3 What to do after you become a sheep. Dingsa watched Satoru climb up from the river with a look of admiration, and nodded earnestly. Wu, you can develop such a strong instant body without even going to ninja school. You are really amazing. Uncle Yen is guiding you with all his heart. I have to ask my father to learn more when I go back. Mito Gate Satoru grinned at the little face that Akito Dingsa really admired, only to feel that his hurt even more. Hotly. Did I get scammed? Fiercely recalled the principles of spellcasting in the book, and the feeling of spellcasting just now. Wu deeply realized the evil taste of the senior mages. But seeing Dingzu's reaction, Satoru really can't say that the effect of this spell is not good. At the age of less than 6 years old, he successfully developed such a strong instant body technique, but this effect is still too embarrassing. The limit is the limit, but it can't be used for fighting. It's almost the same when running away. Su touched the cool buttocks. This spell. Go back. It's almost lunchtime. I have to change my pants before the old man goes back. Dingsua. During lunchtime, Mito Menyen looked at his son suspiciously. He always felt that the confidence of the truth in hand, on the face of the other person in the morning had flown completely. You didn't really test the surgery as you imagined in the morning. Yen looked at Satoru, whose face became embarrassed, and covered his forehead weakly. You're not injured. It seems that as a father, it is necessary for me to let you know the danger of indiscriminate use of magic. Yen knocked on the table and looked at Satoru seriously. Satoru, I repeat, it's good to have ideas, but developing new techniques is not so simple. You haven't even gone to ninja school now. If you take too many steps, you will hurt yourself. Well. Satoru stuffed lunch into his mouth, thinking that when he reads the spell book in the future, he must be more careful. What Mediva's dead old man wrote to make fun of Khadgar is not something his small body can easily bear. The target of this book's tricks is the Archmage who has become the Guardian. Hey! You didn't even hear it. Yen sighed, pushed his glasses, and stretched out his hand to hold Wu's head. Boy, it's very difficult to develop a ninjutsu. After dinner, I'll go to the river with me. Dad, let me help you refer to the jutsu you want to develop. The other hand rubbed his nose, Yen said to himself. How can I say that I am also a consultant to Hizen, and I have witnessed his name of ninjutsu professor along the way. So it's not that you are a ninjutsu professor. Hey! That's not the point. You bastard. Hurry up and eat, come with me. Others can't beg for it. Wait for me to get a pair of pants. In the morning, by the river where Satoru and Dingzwa came, Satoru, who put on new pants, spread his hands helplessly. So, although the effect of this technique is not bad, but it costs a lot of clothes. Mito Gate Yen stared at Satoru with a faint smug look on his face. He really didn't expect that this technique would really work. It's a trivial matter to burn clothes. Yen touched his chin and carefully estimated the speed brought about by the new technique Satoru named, Fiery Speed. This is close to the speed of Chunin level Shunjutsu. Even if it's a Shinoan, it's very suitable for life-saving. I don't need to say more about the importance of clothes and life on the battlefield. And as the development becomes more complete, it should be possible to avoid burning clothes. Yan's face brightened with joy. So is his son still a genius? It seems that your previous ideas have been developed in practice. Thinking of the weird question Wu mentioned before, Yen couldn't help but look forward to it. Come on, try using those techniques on me. How many have you developed? Old man, are you sure? Wu's expression became strange, and there was a father who was close to the shadow level who took the initiative to ask him to be a target. Why, do you think you can hurt me? Yen smiled and waved to Wu. Come on. Okay then. Satoru took a long breath and started to demonstrate. First of all, on how to increase the strength of the spell by repeating the same seal. God's hands began to form seals, and the speed was very slow. The Yen opposite was already in shock, his eyes widened. Enlightenment. You can already use this level of fire escape. The difference between and blazing fast is just to stimulate the body with a little high temperature. Satoru is now nodding the seal. In Yan's opinion, it has reached a sea-level difficulty. Completely forming a seal and successfully performing ninjutsu are two different concepts. C-rank ninjutsu is generally a technique performed by Chunin. A smile appeared at the corner of Yan's mouth. In his opinion, the idea proposed by Satoru was to use slow and repeated knots to increase the success rate of performing ninjutsu, but this was meaningless in actual combat. With this time, the enemy can kill you several times by throwing a shuriken. Fireball. After repeating the seal several times, Satoru shouted loudly, and a fist-sized fireball took shape and flew towards Yen. Inflammation is keenly aware of the difference. Is this technique a C-rank fireball? Fireball? Usually, fireballs are ejected from the mouth. How did the fireballs form out of thin air? But it doesn't matter, this is indeed a fireball, that's right. It actually succeeded. Although the power is terrible, but this is really a C-rank ninjutsu, it's amazing. Waved his hand to disperse the fireball that flew in front of him, Yen nodded in surprise. This fireball is much weaker than normal C-rank ninjutsu, otherwise even he can't deal with it so lightly. In addition to the young geniuses of the big family, who can perform C-level ninjutsu through flexible methods at this age, his advisor but Satoru, this has no practical value at all. Yen felt that he still had to persuade his son to focus on laying the foundation, and it was always right to be safe. Well, the next technique may have practical value. Wu Hehe smiled, signaled to his father to get ready, and began to seal. This time, his nodding speed was very fast, and he said something in his mouth. Both knots and spells can be used to activate magic, they are essentially just a means of concentration, as long as it suits you. Powerful mages can perform high-level magic with simple gestures, a few words, or even a thought, but top-level magic often requires the help of lengthy incantations and even magic circles. And now, obviously using the knot seal gesture, more camouflage. On the feasibility of casting alteration on the enemy. Transfiguration, sheep. Seeing the arcane brilliance flashing across Satoru's hand, Yen instinctively felt that something was wrong. However, it was too late, the technique has been completed. Yen found in horror that his body was turned into a sheep by his son's weird smile. Moreover, he was completely unable to control his body and could only watch himself wandering around in place. What kind of magic is this? Yen wanted to shout, but found that the voice he made became. What? Hey hey hey. Saw Wu looked at the sheep circling blankly in place, and rubbed his hands excitedly. What are you going to do after you become a sheep? With a few gestures, in front of Wu, a fist-sized fireball quickly took shape, and gradually became the size of a basketball. The flame was still spinning around, thinking about whether it was going to break out of chakra, but wanted to see how long this technique would last. Until a fireball the size of a basketball smashed into Yan's contemplative sheep face. Pyroblast. Boom. What? Enlightenment. You boy. Ahahaha. Old man, being bald can make you stronger. The new book is released, please collect it, I have lost a lot of hair. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 4, Take Precautions. Chapter 4 Precautions. The atmosphere is a little awkward. Mito Satoru sat obediently in front of Daddy Yen, his little face full of innocence. Old man, this is what you told me to use the technique I developed. Besides, I did my best to achieve such a little result, old man, you can't be considered an injury. Bullshit. Mr. Consultant gritted his teeth, carefully considering whether to use the transformation technique to change into his own appearance and go to work tomorrow. If I hadn't wanted to experience your rebellious transfiguration technique, I would have broken out of chakra and broke free. How long does this technique last? About 10 seconds. The improvement in strength will last a little longer in the future, but being deformed will quickly restore physical strength. It can only be used on one target, and it will change back when it is hit. The point that Wu has always wanted to complain about is here. You must know that there is no friend or foe identification here. But it can be used to restore stamina to teammates, but it can't heal injuries. For example, Yen was smeared by a pyrotechnic explosion, and his eyebrows, beard and hair were scorched by the flames of the explosion without resistance. This cannot be recovered by polymorphism. Originally, he was a calm and handsome guy with a relatively high appearance, but now he has become an egghead. If it wasn't for Satoru's adjusted pyrotechnician, he just looked big, but he wasn't really powerful, and the old face of Mr. Consultant would probably have no place to put it. On the way home just now, he has been maintaining the transformation technique. TSK, become myself, this experience. Well, although there are many flaws, it is already amazing as a control method. Yen said this, paused slightly, and his face became serious. Wu, these techniques of yours, and if you have similar transformations in the future, sort them out and hand them over to me. Don't say to the outside world that you improved it yourself, just say it was taught to you by your father, remember. Satoru was stunned for a moment, and then he reacted. Dad, this should be, protecting himself. Understood? Old man, aren't you talking about that gloomy dead old man in Danzo? Satoru simply made it clear that his father would not harm him, which is why Satoru would show him such things as developing new techniques. After all, it's different from the seduction technique. The technique developed by Satoru is also effective when it is not so special. As a high-level advisor to Konoha, Mito Taman's caution allowed him to set up a safe insurance for Satoru at this time. In Konoha Hidden Village, there are only 3 people who can compete with the leader of Root, Hokage assistant Shimura Danzo, and even suppress him faintly. 3 generations of Hokage, Sarutobi hidden. Konoha's high-level advisor, Mito Gate Yen, and Koharu. In other words, if the 3 generations of Hokage do not express their opinions, the 2 advisors agree to suppress Danzo, the Hokage assistant. There are only these 3 people who know the shadow of this Konoha best. The existence of Danzo is not surprising to many people in Konoha. But for Satoru, it was like thunder. This is one of the keywords. Wu's understanding of Mr. Guo Wang has always remained at the level of unconsciousness and seriousness, knowing that he is evil, unscrupulous, and several good things he has done. However, in the past few years, he has been an ordinary stern uncle in front of his father on weekdays, very disguised. He's doing that now. I mean, could he be bad for me? Oh. As expected of my son. Yen smiled lightly and nodded with satisfaction. That's right, as one of the people who know Danzo the most, I can say responsibly that even if you are my son, if Danzo finds out that you have an extraordinary talent, he will do everything possible to make you a root effect. As one of the top executives of Konoha, his everything for Konoha rhetoric, even if it doesn't work for me and you, will always leave a rift between us. Yen pushed his glasses, reflecting a piece of white light. Seeing Satoru's expression on the other side also became serious, he shook his head slightly. Wu, you are still young, and you still don't know how high-level operations work and what you need to consider, but as your father, I don't want you to be favored by Danzo because of your outstanding talent. There are many complex relationships in it, you don't need to know now, the only thing you need to do is to grow up and become stronger. And in this process, I don't want you to have anything to do with Root, as long as Danzo is still the leader of Root. Yan's eyes flickered, Satoru could see clearly through his glasses, the vague ambition in his father's eyes. You should have a broader stage and a brighter future. Although I agree with him a lot on the governance of the village, but he does things without any scruples. If you have a relationship with him, it will be detrimental to future development. It's over, the old man is on his way. Is he thinking of some bad idea to make himself proud of his ancestors? I haven't even produced a result yet, isn't the old man too impatient? Shouldn't I ask my own opinion on this kind of thing? Then what? I'll talk about it later. Anyway, my wish is to stay at home until I die. Satoru quickly said rebellious words that made Yen laugh and cry. For this purpose, I developed the art of making food and drinking water, so I can't even leave the door. The next thing that needs to be studied is the technique of automatic cleaning and tidying, as well as improving the taste of food and drinking water. Stop, stop. Yen had to interrupt the endless flow of realization. What did you just say? The art of making food and drinking water. It also needs to be cleaned and organized automatically. You also know that food and drinking water need to be eaten and drunk. Why don't you just make them in your stomach? Seeing Satoru's sudden realization, Yen coughed hard. Stop thinking about it. If you don't even bother to eat, just get out of here and build your own house. Cut, laziness is the driving force behind human progress. Wu glanced at Dad's refreshed head with disdain, and said lightly. Well, maybe the technique for promoting hair growth also needs to be studied. Mito Menyen twitched the corners of his mouth. Stop it. What can you do with your poor chakra? Ninjas don't just have brains. Next month you will go to ninja school, go over there and learn the basics for me. It's not too late to study these things when you become an official ninja. Also, give me a good practice of taishu, learn more from Dingzhou, their Chiodao family's taishu training is famous throughout Konoha. If it weren't for the busy work, I should have personally guided you in your practice. When he thinks of ninja school, Satoru has a bigger head. His own heir, Xiao Qiu Dao Dingzhou, is one of the 12 Xiaoqian Konoha, the father of Qiu Dao Dingji. He still knows this, but others. He doesn't know how many. Is also this generation of pig deer butterfly, Narashikaku and Yamanaka Kaichi, because of the relationship between Dingzhou and Metz several times. I'm not a senior intelligence expert, who would study these background-like characters, even my father Mitaman Yen, who remembers the way he was spitting out by Tsunade's collar. Hey! Satoru, are you thinking of something rude? No, no. Of course I will practice taijutsu well, but I will definitely still focus on ninjutsu. Speaking of taijutsu, Satoru couldn't help but think of one of the key words. Among the Hokage masters, the last stubbornness of taijutsu, the 8 kings. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 5, Guardians Physical Awareness. Chapter 5 The Guardians Physical Awareness. Speaking of which, the forbidden art of Beiman Duinjia has actually existed for a long time, but it is only a theory. In the world of ninja, the concept of the 8 doors of the human body has always been widely circulated, but the method of cultivating the 8 doors seems to be only spread in a small area. There are many people who have practiced ninjutsu to the pinnacle, and there are many in Konoha alone. The of ninjas, the first Naruto, the forbidden art expert, the second Naruto, the ninjutsu professor, the third Naruto, etc. But there is no one who can cultivate the 8 doors to fully open the 8 doors. Therefore, now not only in Konoha, but even in the entire ninja world, taijutsu is a compulsory subject, but it does not need to be refined. In the early days, when ninjas lacked chakra and mastered the power of jutsu, taijutsu can often become the key to victory. But in the later stage, in the battle of high-end force, the pure body technique can play a very small role, and it is more effective to counteract it only after receiving the bonus of the escape technique. There are too few ninjas who choose to specialize in taijutsu, and among them, there are few who can achieve grades. As a mage who believes that knowledge is power, Go also has a very deep understanding of taijutsu. Wuha, the author of the Book of Mediv, the premise of the Guardian of Risva, the most powerful mage Mediv at that time, was stabbed to death by his disciple Khadgar with a long sword. The afterimage of Mediv is obviously a little bit worried about this matter. The remake of Mediva's Book of Wu records the resentment of the former Guardian in detail. Mediv, who can rub a powerful assassin specializing in melee combat against the ground with his bare hands, usually pays attention to his martial arts, but obviously he thought that other mages would not do this. I thought you don't know how to use a sword. Mediv told Khadgar just before he died. So, Archmage Khadgar later developed a good stick skill. With Ataish, whom he had brought from Karazhan, the Archmage did not know how many saps of mighty enemies he struck. Therefore, at least the Guardian lineage must be good at physique. But Beiman Duinjia, it doesn't work. It's been many days since the conversation with Dad, and Satoru has been thinking about it. The 8 gates of Duinjia temporarily gain powerful power by unlocking the channel that binds chakra in the human body. But in the same way, this operation will cause the chakra riot in the body, and it cannot be effectively controlled by the user, so that ninjutsu cannot be used. The same is true when is replaced by Satoru who casts spells with arcane power. Mage who can't cast spells, don't they have to wait to die? The only way to solve this situation in theory is to obtain a physical strength that can open 8 doors without injury, beyond the limits of the human body. If Meikai had the physical strength of Reikage, perhaps the 8 armor formation would not be a mortal suicide technique. But if you have the conditions like Reikage, who would go to repair the 8-door armor? Unlike Kai, my conditions are unique. The Book of Mediv shimmers with hazy arcane brilliance, this magical book invisible to others, records countless incredible arcane knowledge. Among them is the arcane body tempering technique specially developed by Mediv. This is the unyielding resentment of a mage who was stabbed in the back by his disciples. Thunder attribute chakra can turn on the thunder chakra mode, activate the body, and greatly improve the strength of the body. And if the power of arcane is used to quench the body, the effect is much better. Is just far more dangerous. If you're not careful, uncontrolled arcane forces can blow your body to smithereens. However, Wu, who owns the Book of Mediv, don't worry about this. This powerful magic weapon can reconcile the power of arcane magic, so that Wu can always guide the power of arcane magic of suitable strength and maintain the tempering body. That is, it takes a lot of energy to guide the power of the arcane, and Satoru needs to work harder to increase the affinity of the arcane. As a magician, this is enough. As your physical strength goes up, the next thing you need to practice is fighting skills. You can learn this from Dingzhou. Their Chiu Dao clan's stick skills are said to be only under the Sarutobi clan. The most commonly used ninja tools are kunai and shuriken, which are cheap and practical. But swords and sticks are also ninja tools that many ninjas with special skills often use. After all, every outstanding ninja has his own unique fighting style. But the reason why Satoru chose the long stick was because he saw one of the few ready-made spells in the Book of Medivh. Summons the spell of Legendary Staff of a Taiish Guardian. Although the content of this incantation requires almost the strength of a guardian level to see. But that was a small goal anyway. A mage who is not jealous of the chicken leg stick does not exist. So start laying the groundwork now, I'm bound to get there. Wu is full of confidence, and now he can be regarded as a descendant of the guardian lineage. This confidence must be possessed. Therefore, during the period before the opening of the ninja school, Satoru rarely found time to practice stick techniques with Aikido Dingza. God, your art is really powerful, making food. During the rest time, Dingzu swallowed the magic sweet bread made by Satoru and nodded with satisfaction. Although it has no calories, it contains special chakra. At the same time, it is very satiety and tastes good. It's the perfect choice for losing weight. Satoru, who was lying on the ground, panting, struggled to straighten up, and when he practiced with Dingzu, it was obvious that there was a huge gap between the two in physical skills. I can only do this now. Well, this is an art taught by the old man, and I don't have the ability to develop this kind of thing. Satoru corrected and said that after Satoru spent some time correcting the ninjutsu versions of these magics, they were all given to Dad, and now they are all pushing him. Then Wu became strange again. Aren't your Chiodao family's secret techniques to save calories? You still lose weight. How do you practice secret techniques? I haven't started practicing mysticism yet. Dingza grabbed the magic soda Satoru made and drank it, burping contentedly. I also realize that you don't call me fatty like that, but the two guys Lugio and Hai didn't call me that after I beat them up. Satoru's mouth twitched. Nara Shikisa and Yamanaka Kaichi, these two are also well-known, normal, ninjas who shined in the Fourth Ninja World War. The three families of Zuludi have been connected since childhood. Although Dingzwa obviously has a better relationship with Wu now, but school will start soon. My father asked me to sign up with Lugio and Hai. What is a family tradition? Dingza was a little excited. He gave Wubi a thumbs up. Ninja school, there will be a lot of people I don't know. If I can lose weight quickly, I will definitely be popular. So it's up to you to understand. I'll find you to eat later. What? Satoru was stunned. This guy, so refined about rubbing rice? You're so pretty, does Uncle Fong know? If you can't practice family secrets, believe it or not, he beat you to death. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 6, Ninja School. Chapter 6 Ninja School. It's finally the day when the ninja school starts. Konoha's ninja school starts in April, and in a month, Satoru will be 6 years old. Dad Mito Kanzuya brought Sho to the school to report, and he saw a big fat man with a little fat man. Chiou Daoists Chiou Dao take the wind, bring Chiou Dao Dingzwa, and also come to sign up. Yen, I didn't expect you to bring enlightenment yourself. Chiou Dao Tsufeng, although his body is like a meat mountain and his pressure is quite strong, he is actually a gentle and good man. I thought you would attend the opening ceremony with the 3 generations as usual. Hee hee. After all, it's my son's school opening ceremony, and the 3 generations of adults gave me an hour's leave. Mito Gate Yen patted Satoru on the shoulder, always with a serious and old-fashioned face in front of outsiders, and also showed a smile in front of this best comrade in arms. The 3 families of your pigs, deer and butterflies, the descendants of this generation, seem to be ready. They. Chiou Dao took a look at the wind, and Ding Zhu, who winked with Wu, his chubby face trembled happily. It's thanks to the realization that this child Dingza can be so cheerful. I hope that I can get along with the 2 boys from the Nara family and the Yamanaka family in school. Every generation of pigs, deer and butterflies, the descendants of our Chiou Dao family, have to pass their own level first. This kid Dingza will be fine. Mito Kazuo smiled. Satoru will also help him. Look, Nara and Yamanaka are here, let's go. Chiou Dao Xiaofeng turned his head to look, nodded, said goodbye to Yen and his son with a smile, and walked to the other 2 old friends' houses with Dingzwa. God, the Chiodao family is also a big family that has existed since the village was established. The same is true of the Nara family and the Yamanaka family. You should get along well in school. At home, Mito Taman is a somewhat stubborn father, but from the perspective of the whole village, he is a calm advisor who pursues authoritarianism. The major families of Konoha, in his opinion, are also different from each other. God, Yen is right. If you want to make a difference in the village, you must start working hard from now on. Another voice sounded. Satoru turned around, and saw a middle-aged ninja with a serious face and a bun walking towards them. Xiaochun, you're here, are you ready to start on Haijan's side? Going to bed. Koharu, a female ninja who is also a high-level advisor to Konoha with Mito Gate Yen, is good at medical ninjutsu, and has a calm and rational sense that is rarely seen in general female ninjas. Yeah, I'm here to find you. Smiled at Satoru, who pouted, and turned to bed. Xiaochun squatted down and looked at him. I'm sorry, Satoru, you'll have to go to the school by yourself to attend the opening ceremony. What I said just now, as the son of Yen, you should be able to understand it, then come on. Watching Dad and his female colleague disappear in front of him, Satoru pressed his temple. Two stubborn old men. Mito Gate Satoru of the original world, must have deeply understood what you meant, and turned out to be guys who don't seem to exist. The opening ceremony, holding the admission notice, Mito Gate Satoru stood in the queue with a twitching mouth. 6-year-old body, 28-year-old soul, maybe some kind of neutralization. Satoru felt that his personality was similar to that of a teenager. But that doesn't stop him from seeing things through the eyes of a 28-year-old. In front of the crowd, there is a 3-generation Hokage, Sarutobi Hizen, who is wearing a Hokage hat, a red outer robe and a white robe, holding a pipe. Naruto old man, Satoru has also seen it a few times, ashes level smoking gun. But you are so good at smoking, can you still talk like that, aren't you thirsty? Has been talking for over an hour now. Wu can already vaguely see that the bangs of the classmates in the front row are a little wet. As expected of the top leader. The speech talent is full. Satoru rubbed the corners of his mouth, calming the twitching muscles. As a socialist pollution-free intellectual, Wu is quite consistent with netizens' views on Konoha and Sandai. This is an indecisive old guy, gentle and kind is true, but it is also true to look ahead. When Sarutobi Hizen was in office, Konoha was at his peak, and a large number of outstanding genius ninjas emerged. Was then played by the 3 generations himself. Konoha's deadweight loss strength is enough to slaughter a country. Konoha's rebellion and forbearance can destroy the world. If these people are still in Konoha, how can there be such a mess? This old man is not rational when he should be rational, and he is not decisive when he should be decisive. Professor of ninjutsu, after all, is not a professor of sociology. The will of fire of the first generation was a simple slogan in that era of war and chaos, and it was also one of the important reasons why the major families of Konoha were willing to join. But times are changing, and if the slogan cannot be kept with the times, it will eventually become an empty phrase. The will of fire of the first generation is hope, the future, and the seed. The will of fire of the second generation is guardian, inheritance, and seedling. The will of fire of the 3 generations should be development, savings, and a big tree. However, the will of fire of the 3 generations did not develop healthily in the direction of luxuriant branches and trees. On the contrary, it is riddled with pests and diseases, self-damaging branches, rotten roots, fallen leaves, giant trees will fall, and handed over to the 4th generation is a mess of internal and external troubles. And the 4th generation died young before they had time to realize their ambitions, and they could only rely on the 3rd generation to support them with their old age. Among the contemporaries of the 4th generation, there is no other qualified Hokage candidate. Oh, there are still a few. Either defected, or suffered a mental blow, or his mind was not here. There are people who have this idea, but they have long been excluded from the center of power. A good hand is sloppy. Not to mention, among the various dark brain supplements that the majority of netizens are keen on. Satoru, after several years of observation, does not think it is so complicated. 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi hidden, simply lacking in control ability. He can't control Konoha, who has reached the peak, and as he grows older, the deterrence weakens even more, and there will be a lot of bad things in the back. Therefore, he is now talking about the content of the speeches of the students. The normal Konoha teenagers will have their eyes light up and their beliefs will be firm. In Satoru's voice, it's no different from what the Shabi leader who was fired by him said during a meeting. But, Konoha is still saved. Although Satoru is not a savior, since Dad is also one of Konoha's top executives, looking at the old man's face, he can't make Konoha's back so miserable. As for what to do, we'll talk about it then. Wu is not a compassionate priest, nor a holy and noble paladin, nor an indomitable warrior, he is just a rational and self-aware mage, an apprentice. In terms of rational thinking, when the details are not under your control, rashly interfering with the main line is an act of seeking death. But since he appeared here, his own existence itself is the biggest uncertainty factor in the main line of interference. So the safest way is to strengthen your strength before the big turning point comes, and at the same time have a few reliable companions. The mage is too fragile in the early stage, without the help of his companions, he only relies on being clever, but there is no way to successfully live to the end in this supernatural world. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 7, Gather Intelligence. Chapter 7 Intelligence Gathering. The ninja education of the ninja school is basically in the order of admission basic practice application graduation ninja. In wartime, there will be a special mechanism that enables the senior students of the ninja school to graduate early and enter the battlefield. Is the most inhumane point in the ninja world. Of course, this is also the point that the first Hokage Senju Hashirama devoted his life to changing. To put it bluntly, ninjas are tools of war, hired groups, live for war, and die for war. But to build a village, at least there is the possibility of huddled together for warmth. Since the death of the second Hokage Senju Tobarama in the battle and the end of the First Ninja World War, Konoha has had a peaceful era for more than 10 years. Therefore, the current ninja school is the implementation of the educational policy of the peaceful era, and there is nothing that must go to the battlefield to go through the blood and fire test to become a ninja. But, as the son of Mito Gate Yen, Satoru still noticed something from the words of his father. The days of peace and tranquility may not be long. Occasional frictions began to occur between the great powers, and it was unknown how long the stable environment of the ninja school would last. Wu looked around at the little classmates present, and didn't feel impatient to play with the little ones too much. Because of this group of children, there are a few who can grow up to the age where they can drink. Most of the first-year courses are laying the foundation. Before entering school, he had already mastered the avatar technique and transformation technique on the bright side, and there is no doubt that he has greatly surpassed others in the starting point. Konoha has a good point, children from big families have no so-called privileges at school, and the teacher knows at best which wealthy family this child is from, and the foundation is better. Children are not very afraid of children from big families. On the one hand, this is the benefit brought by the will of fire. On the other hand, it is also related to the professional characteristics of ninjas. Both are ninjas. On the battlefield, the enemy will not show mercy to you because of your status as a son of a wealthy family. If it was a rare blood ninja, the situation would be even worse. The powers of the big family are undoubtedly very aware of this. Strength and merit are the most important criteria for measuring a ninja, not one's background. After all, in this wonderful world, it is not uncommon for one person to become a giant. Therefore, students don't have to worry about their origins. The school will impart ninja knowledge to everyone equally. As long as they work hard, anyone can hope to become an excellent ninja. The head teacher was talking on the podium. Some of the students below had glowing eyes, some were drowsy, and some didn't agree. The teacher saw that his speech did not seem to arouse a warm response from everyone, and it seemed that he was a little embarrassed, so he said loudly. Let's not talk about it. The three disciples of the three generations of Hokage-sama, the elite Jurai, Orochimaru, and Tsunade, among them, Lord Jiraiya and Lord Orochimaru, all came from commoners. If Master Orochimaru was a rare genius when he was a child, then Master Jiraiya, who is as famous as him, has always been mediocre when he was young. Through his unremitting efforts, he finally became a powerful ninja on an equal footing with the genius Orochimaru and the granddaughter of the original Naruto. Three powerful ninjas who belonged to the elite among the elites in Shannon finally made the students cheer up and had an irresistible longing for the future. Indeed, the future Sannin, the present Jiraiya and the others, especially Jiraiya himself, are the protagonists of inspirational stories in this era. Jiraiya. Satoru rolled his eyes, observing the students around him. Well, no blondes. In other words, this year, when he graduated, it was not necessarily whether he would lead the team of Joinin Sensei. Among the classmates, except for Aikido Choza, Nara Shikisa, and Yamanaka Kaichi, the others should all be background boards. Satoru couldn't help but feel a little bit of joy. Anyway, there are three that are not background boards. Satoru has also read the list of senior students. Although Dad's face was quite meaningful when he learned that he wanted to see the list, Satoru still had to work hard to accumulate information step by step with the existing resources. Intelligence information is a very important part of knowledge classification. This is also a force to be reckoned with. Sure enough, Satoru found a few memorable names in the list of students who were still in school. Second-year oil girl Jiwei, third-year Uchiha Mikoto, fourth-grade rope tree, fifth-grade Hinata Hizu, Hinata Rosari. It's just this fourth-grade rope tree. I remember it like. The corners of his mouth twitched, and Satoru recalled his sense of urgency when he first saw Arashu's name. And Konoha Crown Prince. Taisun, at the same time. In other words, when this Taisun student just graduated from school and unfortunately died in battle, the Second Ninja War was about to begin. Isn't that in these 2 or 3 years? When he saw the name of the rope tree, he was instinctively nervous, and was discovered by his father Maitaman Yen. But the father obviously misunderstood, introduced the information of the rope tree to him, and pointedly pointed out. It's good for the 3 big clans of the pig, deer and butterfly to make good friends, but the rope tree, you have to look at it from the perspective of a competitor. Satoru of course knew what Dad had misunderstood, but he couldn't tell. What is that stunned youth of rope tree shouting all day long? Everyone who knows him in Konoha knows. However, they have that capital. The first generation of Naruto, the of ninjas, Shinsho Juma, and the first generation of nine-tailed people Juli, the grandson of Uzumaki Mito. The tyrannical bloodline of Shinsho and the Uzumaki clan is not to be seen, the achievements of his sister Tsunade can largely explain this. Perhaps, this is also the main reason for his early death. Wu looked like he was listening to the class seriously, but in fact, the head teacher's endless basic brainwashing education completely filtered out Wu. His thoughts have begun to uncontrollably radiate in the direction of the darkness of Konoha. Too self-confident and careless. Someone at the top of the hierarchy. Passing the enemy inside and outside. Or did the enemy know his identity and deliberately target him? Satoru repeatedly guessed that as one of the keywords, one of the turning points of the blackening of the top scientist Orochimaru, the special identity and premature death of the rope tree are also the key points that are enough to affect the main line. But, he is 3 years higher than me, so there won't be any intersection. Satoru is not arrogant enough to warn Rashu, classmate, be careful with the detonating talisman in the future, or something like that. As for Orochimaru, the leader of the rope tree, he even avoided it before it was too late. Without him, if Konoha is the most troublesome person, Mr. Guo Wang is one, then Orochimaru is another. With Orochimaru's strong thirst for knowledge, if he discovers something special about Satoru, he will probably do everything possible to make Satoru his research material. Even if Orochimaru hasn't gone black yet, he is still a good young man who cares about his friends and the village, so he can't take this risk. Fortunately, Orochimaru should bring the rope tree to the class. After that, when Satoru graduates, Orochimaru should be busy with the war, ready for the next stimulation. The contract was sent out yesterday afternoon. It shouldn't change the status today and tomorrow weekend. Those who want to invest, hurry up. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 8, Ask for Advice. Chapter 8 Seeking Guidance. Satoru relied on the information he had collected and confirmed that the war would come soon, so he kept a low profile. On weekdays, he practiced taijutsu with his only acquaintance, Chiyo Dao Dingza, but even he did not know that these techniques were developed by Satoru himself. After a few months of getting along, with Satoru's help and the family's relationship, Dingza obviously has a good relationship with Nara Shikisa and Yamanaka Kaichi. Lu Jiu can already see that his mind is not simple at this age. And I don't know if it was the influence of the family's secret art, his eyes seem to have a much brighter light than ordinary people. Now, the four of them practice taijutsu by the river they frequent. The Yamanaka family's secret art is more inclined to mental strength, while the Nara family is more inclined to strategic cooperation, but under Satoru's suggestion, they also recognize the importance of taijutsu to a certain extent. The principles of chakra and its in-depth application, even if they are from a big family, they are not only the first-year level of knowledge that they can come into contact with. When ninjas fight, as one of the two key elements in making chakra, physical strength always seems to be exhausted first. This is probably because the spirit can achieve the effect of exploding seeds through external stimuli, emotional explosions and other factors. But physical strength. If it is gone, it will be gone. Unless you have a rest, if you want to explode the seeds to squeeze chakra, you can only work hard. Therefore, no matter how impassioned the spirit is, without sufficient physical cooperation, chakra should still be gone. It is precisely because of this that the powerful physical strength of the Vortex clan shows such an exaggerated effect. The blue bar is long and the fault tolerance rate is high. In the fierce battle, even if you are suppressed, as long as you are not killed in seconds, there will be countless opportunities to come back. Exercise is a good way to increase physical strength. Besides, they still don't know how to attack ninjutsu. Even if it's just self-defense, taijutsu is the best choice at the moment. Wu, I always feel that the only person in the class that I can't see through is you. After a little breath, Nara Shikahisa took the soda that Satoru handed over and drank it happily. Gudong. With this one hand, if you go out in public, I dare say that you must be the most popular in the whole school. Magic soda water, after the improvement of Wu, has several good flavors. What Lu Jiu is drinking is orange-flavored, while Hai is drinking lemon-flavored one, Dingza. Dingza is happily eating Satoru's special magic meat floss bread, and drinking soda, it's milk-flavored, low-profile. Satoru took a big mouthful of cola-flavored soda, and while thinking about whether to switch to carbonated water next time, he waved to Shikaju. The technique developed by Dad, I just improved the taste. Adding chakra to a drink to stimulate the palate to change the taste, Satoru, I have to say, you are a genius. Hai happily drank a glass of soda water, watched in amazement as the glass automatically filled up, and exclaimed loudly. Wu, you even engraved the magic formula on the cup, such a genius idea, you actually say that it is because of laziness. He is really lazy. Dingza swallowed the bread in his hand and reached out to Satoru as a matter of course. Let's have some honey. Wu twitched the corners of his mouth and made several gestures, and a piece of bread in his hand gradually took shape. Hey, Dingzwa, I told you that this bread is not nutritious, you haven't eaten it for a while, why are you eating it again? Ha! Really fragrant. Dingza took the hot bread smeared with honey with bright eyes, and took a good bite. It's delicious. Wu, I started to get in touch with the family's secret arts a few days ago, only to find out. The chakra contained in your bread can also be used as an accumulation for activating secret spells, how strange. Dingzwa's chubby face showed an excited look. Although the quantity is not much, the quality is very high, and it can be saved without affecting the body shape. Enlightenment. You are my great benefactor. I can lose weight without affecting my secret art practice, but it's all up to you. Wu murmured silently in his heart, and he spoke in such a high-sounding manner. The reason Satoru probably guessed something. The bread for Dingzwa was made by Satoru with arcane power, and it was not surprising that it had some characteristics that were different from chakra. Even the bread made by Satoru himself using the chakra version of the food-making technique will have this effect, because the chakra transformed by Satoru with the power of arcane magic is very special. But if someone else uses this art to create bread, there will be no such special effect. Wu was silently complaining when he heard a rustling sound. Who? Satoru quickly got up and turned to a bush next to him, pinching out the transfiguration gesture in his hand. Come out. The three of Dingza were startled, and they didn't care about eating or drinking, and immediately stood up and formed a formation. Although they haven't finished the family's secret arts yet, the battle formation has already taken shape. I'm dying. Water, is there, water? An embarrassing voice came from the grass, and Wu's expression became subtle. What? Looking carefully, in the green grass, there is a guy who is almost integrated with the grass. He was dressed in green, and Satoru couldn't see clearly until the guy's head stuck out of the grass. Fuck. Super thick eyebrows. Guapitu. The three people in Dingzwa opened their mouths. This person's image is too strange. Satoru felt that the guy in front of him looked familiar. Could it be? It's fine if it's not an enemy, I'll give you the water. Looking at the young man who was about to faint in front of him, Satoru handed him a glass full of Sprite-flavored soda. Kudong, 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 hiccup. Sighed happily, and the thick-browed young man who was relieved was shocked to see that the cup was filled with water again, shaking his hand, and almost threw the cup out. Wow! Is this a magic weapon? Just a toy. Satoru looked at the young man sitting cross-legged on the ground and asked. Who are you? Why are you so thirsty? There is a river next to it. Ha! Thank you little brother for the water, it's really delicious. The thick-browed youth burst out laughing, showing a thumbs up to Wu. Youth is even more exciting with outstanding young people like you. I'm Mate Dai, I was practicing alone on the mountain just now. When I found out that my body was severely dehydrated, it was too late. I came to the river, but I didn't seem to be able to hold on to it, so I fainted. Dai was a little discouraged, and then cheered up again. This shows that my training is not enough. I don't have precise control over my physical condition, but I can't cultivate that. Okay, Satoru confirmed that this person in front of him is one of the keywords, Beiman Kai Huang, Mate Kai's father, the first person in Konoha's history to successfully cultivate the forbidden art Beiman Duanjia, but he has a great reputation. Invisible Wonder. Is probably most famous for his nickname of Wan Yen Xia Ren. Having such a strong person without knowing it. If the old man is not my father, I really want to start spraying. Satoru sighed, and a smile appeared behind him. Hello, big brother Dai. I'm Mito Gate Satoru. These three are Akito Dingza, Nara Shikuji, and Yamanaka Kaichi. We are the first-year students of the ninja school, and we are doing battle practice here. Brother Dai, can you give us some pointers? End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 9, Lilianhua. Lianhua in Chapter 9. The current Mat Day looks about 18 or 19 years old. He is wearing a unique green training suit, orange leggings and a scarf, super thick eyebrows and melon skin head, and his angular face always shows a hearty smile. Even though he is almost 20, he is still a shinobi, and it is very likely that he will be a shinobi until he dies. But for the current Konoha, or the entire ninja world, the only person who knows his strength and value is right in front of him. Satoru smiled and asked Dai for advice, which made Dai stunned for a while. Pointing. Dai couldn't help being hit by the word, his eyes were sore, and he almost didn't cry. It has been many years since he finally became a genin, and all the genin people of the same age have become chunin, but he is the only one who has stopped moving forward. Does not know any ninjutsu and illusion, can only practice taijutsu, can't be promoted to chunin, can only accept ninja tasks. Is also such trivial tasks as doing coolies for the employer and helping the employer find cats. Such a low tolerance, who has asked him to instruct? Besides, the four children in front of them, their surnames, are all famous in the village. The kid who even spoke to himself was the son of a high-level advisor. I don't know any ninjutsu or illusion, only taijutsu, so I may not be able to give you any pointers. Dai regained his senses, looked at the four children in front of him, and couldn't help but feel a burst of frustration. Although I am a genin, strictly speaking, even this is just comforting. After all, even if you go to a ninja school, you need to test ninjutsu and illusion. On this point alone, you are actually stronger than me. Satoru looked at Dai, who was discouraged, and felt a little emotional. Dai has very little information, so little that it looks like a character who was added in a hurry in a later stage. But with so little information, it was picked up by netizens and made Wu's impression very deep. This is the first person who really interprets the role of hard work. We're just practicing physique, isn't that what you are best at, big brother Dai? Satoru handed a piece of magic meat floss bread to Dai, who raised his head in surprise. Hurry up and eat it, we're ready to start. Let's see your youth. Dai took the bread dully, and he saw clearly that the bread came out of Wu's hands. You. He re-examined the child in front of him. As expected of the advisor's son, youth. I really thought just now that I was talking to a friend of the same age. Dai nibbled on the delicious bread silently. Satoru and Dingza were already whispering something together. The expressions of the three of them were surprised at first, and then turned into confusion. Wu, are you telling the truth? Is this genin so strong? Dingzu touched his belly, he was full. I'm full, but my strength is not inferior to that of an adult. He looks like an ordinary physique, and he also said that he doesn't know how to ninjutsu an illusion. Can pure physique really be so strong? If you rely on strategy and use ninja tools to cooperate, pure physique can also have excellent performance, but it is only limited to the level of lower ninja. Lu Jiu touched his chin, he had been looking at Dai for a while. Satoru should be right. After all, his father is a consultant. If there is any special existence in Konoha ninja, it doesn't seem surprising that Satoru knows. But what's strange to me is that this person doesn't look very smart. Shouldn't he really only rely on physical skills to fight? Lu Jiu, I don't think he looks like he knows how to use ninja gear. Hai-E also observed Dai carefully. The location of the scar on his hand is not what a person skilled in ninja gear should look like. I have observed the people of the Uchiha family, and they will have some special scars on their hands, which are inevitably caused by ninja training. He really only relies on physical skills. The specific reason, just ask him in person later. Satoru nodded, the doubts of the three friends will be answered soon. On this side, Dai had already eaten the bread and drank enough water. He felt that the energy and stamina that he had used up before had recovered, so he stood up and walked to Wu and the other four. Brother Wu, your youth is really enviable. At your age, there are almost no people who would think of practicing taijutsu. They basically only practice when they are older and practice forbearance. Except for the wealthy Hyuga family. As a famous taiju family, they practiced earlier. Dai is no nonsense, he seems to instinctively regard Satoru as an adult about his own age, rather than a first-year child. Dai directly told Wu several people some common sense of body arts that he knew. Including his own practice of rigid fist relative, Hyuga's soft fist. What I practice is straightforward boxing, and the focus is on being fast and strong. But now you just need to lay the foundation, so I can introduce you to my practice method. Dai, brother, how far is your physical training? How strong? Although Dingza almost blindly trusted Satoru, his curiosity still made him ask his own questions. As a ninja of taijutsu type, Dingza heard his father mention the upper limit of taijutsu. Shio Daoist also used ninjutsu to increase the destructive power of taijutsu. If there is no such increase, relying on taijutsu alone, Dingzwo understands that they will not have any advantage in battle. So. Dai hesitated for a moment, but then his expression became firm. Since you are interested, I will demonstrate the strength of my physical skills at this stage. Took a deep breath, Dai clenched his fists and looked serious. After a while, he gave a low voice. 8 gates Duinja, first door open, open. Second Hue door open. The third life gate open. The four looked at Dai's state in shock. The current Dai burst out with a powerful momentum, his body turned reddish, exuding a layer of green energy. This is the strongest move I can safely use. Continue, I will go to the hospital to lie down. Dai he laughed. After all, as a genin, my finances are not very good, so I should try not to go to the hospital. Made a joke, Dai looked at the 4 shocked children in front of him and waved his hand. The first is speed. Sigh. Dai instantly disappeared in front of the 4 of them, and when he reappeared, he was already in the air. He can even stay in the air for a short time depending on his speed. And then the power. Dai disappeared in the air in an instant, and before the four of them could react, a violent explosion sounded from the ground not far away. The whole ground seemed to be bombarded by a bunch of bombs, and it shattered directly in the violent storm. Lilian Hua. Boom long dash. After a long time, the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, and the three of Dings were watched in awe as Dai walked out of the ruins, covered in green light. So amazing. End of this chapter. Guardians of Tirisfal of Konoha Chapter 10, New Semester. Chapter 10 New Semester. Even Satoru is the first time he sees the state of the 8 gates Duanjia opening the 3 gates. This kind of speed and strength can beat most chunin. This is the legendary body art forbidden technique, Li Lianhua of the 3rd door of the 8 gates of Duanjia. There are not many people who can successfully dodge this kind of intensive attack, let alone fight back. Not only that, this is only the 3rd door, and Dai obviously can master it. Listening to what he said, now it is possible for him to open 4 or even 5 doors at the limit. How strong is the 5-door ware? And Dingswa and the others had all their doubts gone, and they worshipped Dai instead. I can't practice ninjutsu and illusion, so I can only practice taijutsu, and this is the forbidden technique in taijutsu, the 8 armors. The green light on Dai's body dissipated, and he gasped violently. It was obvious that the blow just now consumed a lot of his stamina. Brother Dai. Can I also practice this kind of physique? As if instinctively ignoring the word, forbidden art, Dingza asked with bright eyes. Unfortunately. Dai shook his head with a smile, and briefly explained the principles of Beiman Duanjia to the 4. Beiman Duanjia is the last way for a person like me who can only cultivate physical skills, and it is also the way to survive in a desperate situation. It's a forbidden technique, and it does great damage to the body. If you don't specialize in physique practice, you can't train your body enough to open the door. Furthermore, opening the door will make the chakra riot in the body, making it impossible to perform ninjutsu, which is harmful to you. You only need to use taijutsu to exercise your body. Learning this will waste your talent. Oh. The 3 of Dingza nodded in disappointment. But the 3 of them cheered up immediately. With the guidance of such a strong physicist, their physique practice will definitely be excellent. Wu also nodded lightly. The drawbacks of the 8-door Duanjia were the same as he understood, so now is not the time to practice. Instead, Satoru was very interested in the special physique he wore. Unlike Kai can still use some ninjutsu, but he is not proficient. Dai can't use any ninjutsu at all. He is like the legendary, absolute physique. He can make chakra, but he can't convert them into magic at all. This kind of physique is considered rare, so Satoru couldn't help but think of the arcane body-quenching technique he practiced. However, the current Satoru does not have the ability to temper the body for others, but maybe this is a priority research direction in the near future, but now. As Dai said, let's focus on the basics of practice. Dai's physique skills, combined with the arcane body-quenching technique, gave Wu the confidence that even in melee combat, he would not be easily suppressed by others. Then, boys. Now is the time to show your youthful blood. Start now, feel the charm of hard work and sweat. Dai apparently quickly stepped into his role. Perhaps the first time he pointed a child, Dai easily brought the 4 of them into his former childhood image. First, press the palm 300 times. Facing the 4 people who were terrified and discolored, Dai flashed a dazzling flash with his big white teeth, and extended his thumb. If you fail in the middle, you have to start all over again. Aha! The days of being trained like crazy by Dai passed by quickly. Wu also truly realized why Dai was so strong, and how cruel and inhumane the Beiman Duanjia was when he practiced. Because of this level of training, it is far from meeting the requirements of opening the first door. Of course, they are too young, their bodies are far from developing, and excessive training will damage the foundation. Dai practiced alone when he was young, without anyone's guidance, and caused some irreversible damage to his body. I realize that they are just laying the foundation and learning physical combat skills, but they have no concerns about this. Combined with the arcane body tempering technique, Satoru could noticeably feel that his body strength was getting a little bit stronger every day. Although the degree is very small, but in the long run, it is a huge improvement. During this period, Satoru put aside his research on other magic, and used the Book of Mediv, a powerful instrument, to carefully study the body tempering technique. This involves the application of the enchantment system among the 9 major factions of arcane magic. Wu's signature spells, food creation and water creation are the most famous applications of conjuration among the 9 major factions. And fireballs and the like belong to the plastic energy system that rounds and flattens natural elements. Transfiguration is a well-known application belonging to the Transformation Department, and several other high-end applications of this faction include teleportation spells and time spells, which are incredible. Enchanting, as the name suggests, attaches magical power to an item, or a person, and also includes dispelling, which dispels magical effects. Body quenching technique is one of the variants, the more famous application, as well as the manufacture and remote control of magic weapons. The pile of artifacts of a certain Kaizi is one of the representatives. And the Book of Mediv is worthy of being the most comprehensive magic book that spans 2 worlds. Although the content that Wu can see is limited now, only about 15%, it is enough for Wu's magic level to advance by leaps and bounds. Especially after Satoru learned to gain magic, arcane wisdom, it is a basic operation to remember. During this period of time, the 4-member group has been sharing weal and woe, and their friendship has been quickly consolidated, and Satoru has no way to really treat them as children. Ninja kids, especially Konoha kids, are really precocious. Their vision, mind, and thinking angle are not at the same level as children of this age in the peaceful world in the previous life. The big families also seem to be passing on the tension of the major powers to these new generations, and the unobvious sense of urgency has gradually enveloped the entire Konoha under Satoru's keen perception. The time is coming to April soon. Satoru they finished their 1st grade and entered the 2nd grade. Of course, a new batch of 1st-year students came to the ninja school to receive the Will of Fire education of the 3 generations of Hokage. And this time, Satoru found a half-blind name on the admissions list. The first name, Namikaze Minato. The future, Golden Flash, the man engraved on the Hokage Yen, the 4 generations of Hokage, is a very popular character before and after death, one of the keywords. 4th generations were cute when they were young. Satoru was sitting in the classroom, and he had actually cast the Tmagezite spell from the prophecy department. The eye of the mage requires concentration and cannot move. It is suitable for the current state. The children who are receiving 3 generations of Hokage education in the school square are fully enlightened. This hidden observation technique is clearly marked forbidden to peep on the spellbook. This spell is one of the most proud of the gossip master Khadgar, and Mediv seems to have a deep understanding of Khadgar's gossip heart. To tell the truth, Minato is much more handsome than his son Naruto. And he can suppress the red hair of the swirling bloodline. The last person to do this was the first Hokage Senju Hashirama, right? As for the other half of the interesting names, is rather a surname. Yakushi no Nayu, a 5-year-old girl. It's not uncommon to enter school at the age of 5. On the one hand, this little girl's ninja talent is very outstanding. On the other hand, she should be much more mature than her peers. Well, she's a calm little girl. End of this chapter.